Hello and welcome to this short and hopefully informative video on making tax digital. I'm Andy Hall, I'm the Help Desk Manager here at Nolan's Business Solutions, and the idea behind this video is to take you through some of the configuration and setup of our Making Tax Digital solution. So hopefully by the end of this video you'll be able to set yourself up with a trial account and have a play and actually see if this is the right solution for you. So onwards and upwards, Making Tax Digital. Why should I go for the Nolan's solution? There's a Microsoft one out there already. So yes, there is a Microsoft solution out there. It was released in February. It's a hot fix. It only works with Dynamics GP 2016 and above though. So if you're on an older version of Dynamics GP and you don't want to upgrade, then our solution is the one for you. These other thing to do with the Microsoft solution is it works off of the VAT 100 report, the VAT return, what was the old VAT 100 in the old UK dictionary days. The code sits behind that, and when you submit your VAT return, it makes all the fields editable. You type in what you want into 9 boxes and then it pushes it up to HMRC. Our solution works off of the VAT daybook report, simply because the VAT daybook is more configurable. You choose what updates what boxes, whereas the VAT return you don't have any choice, it just is what it is. Also, our solution deals with VAT groups as well, so the Microsoft solution literally just pushes up from each company into HMRC. Now if those companies put together form a VAT group, the Microsoft solution doesn't cope with that, whereas ours does. So that's the Microsoft solution. Nolan's solution, based on our cloud services platform, which I'll go into a little bit later. Our solution works for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2010 and upwards, or older if you use our bridging solution. So what's bridging? So we've got 2 solutions in here for uploading: linking and bridging. Linking is where we're taking information directly from the Dynamics GP product. It's code that sits behind the VAT daybook report and will push up whenever you run the final audit report into Nolan Cloud Services, and therefore you need to be on a specific version of GP, so 2010 and above. The bridging, however, is working from a spreadsheet and is pushed up from a spreadsheet. So in actual fact, that is version agnostic. You can be on an older version of Dynamics GP. In fact, you don't even need to be on Dynamics GP. You can be on any old finance system you like, because at the end of the day, you're putting information into a spreadsheet if you're using the bridging method. So that's version and system agnostic. Word of warning on the bridging method, obviously what HMRC are trying to achieve with this is the seamless digital transformation of your tax up into their portal, and that means that the linking method is what they're really after. So the bridging style of connectivity will be discontinued by them in 2020. It's what we're currently being told. So basically the bridging method's a get out of jail free card for the up until 2020. By that time you'll need to have all your ducks in a row and using a linking method to get that information up to HMRC. So here we go. On the right hand side, this is just a little bit of a screenshot from the HMR website showing that we have been actually approved by HMRC. We're on that website. You can go in there, you can go and check, you'll find us on there, and what our system's capable of. So quick overview of how it all hangs together. Obviously you have your ERP system down here, in this case Microsoft Dynamics GP. Over here we've got a little Excel spreadsheet, so this is the bridging method I was talking about. In the middle here is Nolan's Cloud Services, so that's our solution, and over on the right hand side is HMRC's portal. So how this all hangs together, we put a little bit of code behind the VAT daybook report, and when you run that final one of the VAT daybook report, it pushes up, so you're not having to pull or anything, it pushes up into our Nolan Cloud Services, whereby you can combine it with the daybook reports from other companies to form a VAT group if you need to. And from there, obviously our VAT submission software is linked with HMRC via another token, and this means that they are pushing obligations our way, i.e. what VAT returns and things you need to run. When you then submit your VAT return from our system across to HMRC, they will push back liabilities, basically the contents of box 5, and that will tell you what you need to pay. And then when you've done your payments outside the system by your usual method with HMRC, it will then inform the system that that particular one has been paid and updated appropriately. Basically, the same process is followed with the bridging, but instead of coming from the ERP system, it's coming from an Excel spreadsheet, and it's not being pushed, it's being pulled. So you go in and you pull the information from the spreadsheet into your VAT entity to submit. And because it's in a spreadsheet, obviously this means system agnostic, version agnostic, because you can take whatever information out of this system and manually type it into here. Or if you want to get funky, use VLOOKUPs and all sorts of other things from Excel downloads, but we'll get into that later. So, as we mentioned, it's not compatible with all versions. You'll find this little formula on our website, and as you can see, we can go through it and work out whether you're using the VAT return, the VAT daybook, Nolan's advanced VAT, whether you're doing group submissions and stuff, and what your options are regarding that. So as you can see, I'm actually, if I was on 2010 or above, I can use Nolan's cloud services, and if I'm using the VAT return, well, actually I can only use the bridging method because our code runs off of the link code runs off the daybook. But if I'm using the VAT daybook, fine, I can use both. I can use all of that. But if I'm using Nolan's advanced VAT, I can only use the bridging method again. Reason for this being is we changed the code in Nolan's advanced VAT to update the VAT daybook in 2015. So you need to be GP 2015 or above if you are using Nolan's advanced VAT to be able to use the linking method. Otherwise, it's the bridge for you. And the latest version of it, the latest release at this point in time is version 175, so you can go and check on that. If you've not got it, give us a call, download it. It's got some fixes for reverse charging, etc., and that you're going to want. Okay, so this is on the website, so you can go in and have a look. Obviously, if you're using VAT and group submissions, it's going to be Nolan's cloud services. Really, the only situation you can use the Microsoft one is if you're using the old VAT 100, the VAT return, and you've got the hotfix in place and you're in GP 2016 or above. So there's only quite a small window for using that Microsoft stuff. Okay, other things you're going to want to consider. Obviously, the whole point of this, if you're not using the bridging method, if you're using the link method, is that all your tax reporting needs to be in your ERP system in GP. So you're going to have to think about how you're doing your VAT adjustments and stuff like that if you're not already in GP. So enabling tax for VAT journals and things like that in the GL so that it can be a tax detail ID attached. Reverse charging, how you're coping with that. If you're using Cashbook, again, there's some questionality around if you're using Cashbook. Partial recovery and all these good things. These are all things you need to consider, because at the end of the day, that information needs to be finding its way into your VAT daybook report correctly to be able to be pushed up to HMRC. So if you're doing any of your tax outside of GP at the moment in spreadsheets and things, what we're suggesting to people is you configure the VAT daybook, but you run it in parallel with your current reporting method, and you might want to submit by the bridging method until such time as you're happy that we're getting all of the adjustments and etc. accounted for correctly in your VAT daybook within GP. Okay, so Nolan's Cloud Services, we've talked a bit about it. What is it? It's built on Microsoft Azure. It's a platform that we're going to be releasing a lot of our applications on in the future. At the moment, VAT Submissions is the first one. Great thing about it is it's got banking level security. It's all controlled by Microsoft in terms of backups, making sure it's up all the time, all that kind of stuff. And it's very secure. We are adding our own layers of security for dual factor authentication. You'll be able to use all sorts of authenticator apps and things on that in the future. We're licensing as a service. There's no upfront fee. As I said, you can have a trial account to start with. It will be an annual subscription because it's software as a service, and that will be £250 per VAT entity. So a VAT group is a VAT entity. So it could be 6 companies and it's a VAT group, that's a VAT entity, so £250. or if you've got a VAT entity per company, well, you have £250 per company, depending on which way you're configured for VAT. And the whole thing's obviously accessible on the web anytime, any place. So creating Nolan's cloud service account. So we've mentioned trial accounts. This is what you're going to want to do to make sure that this works for you. So we come in here. You can get to the create a trial account by simply going to www.nolancloudservices.com and get to this window and you create a free trial account. Or if you go to our website, nolansbusinesssolutions.com or .co.uk, go to the solutions section, the VAT submission section. There's a link there to create a free trial account. There's also a lot of useful information about this. In this case, we're going to create a free trial account. We're going to click on here. And as you can see, we need to put an email addresses, passwords, all the usual sort of stuff, and your account name. The account name is your company name, not your name as an individual. I've had a couple of people do that so far. So it's the company name you want to put in there. Agree to our T's and C's, which you can download here, and confirm that you're not a robot. So yes, I'm not a robot. I'm going to create an account. At this point, it's going to come back with your account configuration settings. So you've got your account number here. You'll also have an authentication token. You're going to need this later to put this to one side. Doesn't matter if you lose this. There's another way of getting to the token, which I'll show you in a bit. And of course, this is the. It's all going to be connected to Dynamics GP. So you'll get an email verifying your account. You click on the verify account. Yes, that's great. That's me. Brings you back into cloud services. As you can see, account's now been verified. Great. We'll refresh all that and we'll get back into the main page there. So as you can see, we're now in cloud services. The main page has two big blue blocks and we can see that we're a trial account at the moment. So two big blue blocks. This one is the admin, and that's admin for the whole of cloud services. As I said, it's a platform, so it's not just the admin for VAT submission, it's for the whole of cloud services. And then VAT submission is the application itself. And obviously there'll be more blue blocks in here over time as we put more applications into cloud services. So we'll start in the admin section to start with. We've got users, so we go in and create a user. You've got the one you've set up, but you're going to want more than one user in your organisation. You don't want all your eggs in one basket. If that person's away on holiday, you might need someone else to submit tax, or if they're away on maternity leave, or any of those other options that could cause them not to be in the office. So we'll collect new. We can set up a new user, put our details in there, force them to change password at the next login. I'll save that. It'll send them out an email, same as it did the original user, to verify the account and everything. And you can have as many users as you like. So they're not charging on number of users. I would suggest, though, more than one, but not everybody in your organisation. Yeah. You don't want everybody looking at what you're submitting tax-wise, etc. So we need to be a little bit sensible about that. Okay, account settings are in here as well, so we can have a look at your account settings. All the details of who you are as an account, addresses, that kind of stuff. Important bit down here is phone numbers, etc., and the billing contact email address. You might want to change that to a generic finance one at the end of the day, rather than an individual, because that's where all the bills, etc., are going to come. Next thing we've got over here is access tokens. So remember at the start it gave us that access token. That's the token that connects the connector in the ERP system to cloud services, not the one to HMRC. So we're going to go into access tokens, and this is where, if we drill down on that, you can cut and paste that token. So if you've lost that initial sign up stuff, you can't remember what your token, put your token, this is where you can get it. At the moment you only get a GP token in here. What we can say is in the future there will be other tokens as we create more apps in the system, but that's that token. Obviously we've also got over here the ERP connector. So this is the bit that's going to connect it to GP. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is going to go through the connection to GP and how we set that up. So the ERP connector, we'll click on that. Couple of things to start with before we go through this. You are going to need the administrator login to the machine that you're on. So the main admin, local admin, something like that, because it's going to update files on the machine that GP is installed on. So you might need to get IT involved in that. Also, it's useful if you've got the SA login, system administrator login for GP itself. Okay, so if you've got those particular things, and you will also need to ensure that you have internet access from the machine that you're installing this on, because this is a cloud service. It does need to go out to the internet, and therefore you will need to make sure you have internet access. We have had a couple of people setting this up getting no further, and they hadn't realised that IT had tied down the machine to such an extent that we couldn't talk out to the internet. Once that was resolved, it all went through smoothly. So make sure you've got internet access from that machine as well. So installing the connector, obviously we come in, so we clicked on the ERP connector, we're having the GP connector, and check your version of GP. So there's different connectors for different versions. Select the version of GP you're on, and as you can see, we've got all the information here. So as well as this video, all the information you need to install it is here, and you can scroll through that, etc. And then we'll just download it. So that's downloading an executable. So we're clicking Run, clicking Yes. That's great, and what we're going to do now is go through this next part of the executable, which is basically taking out a CNK file, a chunk file, and putting it in the root directory of Great Plains. So when Great Plains launches, it sees that CNK file, it knows there's new code it has to install, and it'll bring the code in. So it means it has to go in the root directory. So when you get to this point here, you need to make sure that's the file path for where the dynamics.executable is installed on that machine. If you don't know where it is, right click on the shortcut on the desktop, look at properties, that will have the file path to where the executable is. This is the default file path where most GP is installed by default, and so some people have slightly different setups, so it's worth checking. It needs to go wherever the dynamics.exe is. Okay, so we're clicking next. Yes, we'll have our shortcuts, etc. We like all of that. It's just confirming what we've done, and we'll finish that. That's great. So that's now literally put a CNK file in that root directory. This is where we now need IT involved, because we're going to launch Great Plains and include the code Dynamics GP. Sorry, Great Plains, showing my age there. So what we're doing is we'll go to our GP icon, and you're right clicking on it, and you need to run it as administrator. So this isn't SA, this isn't the administrator in Great Plains. This is the local admin or the domain admin on that machine, someone that's got full control on this machine and is allowed to update files and etc. So we're going to click that and run that as administrator. Click yes. It's launching GP. It's seen the CNK file. It wants to include new code, so we click yes. That's great. Now we get to the GP login window. It's best to log in as SA whenever you're doing anything like that. Now at this point we've launched GP, we're into GP. If this is the first time we've done that, you're going to be presented with an install window. It's already been installed on this one, so you're not presented with an install window. As with all Nolan's products, though, you can get to the install window from the home bar on the left-hand side here. So again, Nolan's Business Solutions. You can see all our other products that are installed on this particular instance here. But the one we want is Nolan's Service Connection. There you go. And this is the window that you would be presented with if it was the first time you were doing it and logging in. So yes, we're going to install some database stuff, and we're going to do some alternate forms and reports, and we select which companies we want it to do it. So obviously we have UK company, we've got a US company, we're only going to put it in our UK company. Are you sure we want to do that? So have we done backups and all those kinds of stuff? Yes, we've done backups and all those kinds of stuff. And clicking yes, and installation complete. Okay. Next window it hits you with is the account number and authentication tokens. This is the one we were provided with at the start when we first signed up, and also I showed you how to get to through Nolan Cloud Services. So at this point you put in your account number and your authentication token. Okay. If you haven't got internet access, it's going to throw a wobbly here and not go any further, because this is the point where it's going to start to go out to the internet. Also, the other wobbly that it throws is if you go through and try and do that installation and you haven't got that daybook already set up and configured. You can't set it up after you've installed this. That daybook needs to be set up and configured before you install this, because it's going to look for it, and if it's not installed and configured, you'll throw the error message, and that means it needs to be in there, needs to be set up, and it needs to have a default report set as well. Okay, so that's that. We're clicking next. Which companies do we want to submit VAT for? Yeah, the UK one, great. Click next. So now I'm going to have a look at the UK one. There it is for that year, and there's, surprise, surprise, no data available. There isn't going to be any data available because we haven't run a VAT daybook report yet with our code attached, so it doesn't know what to look for. So that's fine. We're going to click finish. Off we go. So that's it. Connectors on. We're all ready to talk to Nolan's Cloud Services. We need somewhere in Cloud Services to put that information when we push it up there. So whenever we run the VAT daybook report, we run the final audit version, it's going to push up to Nolan Cloud Services. We need somewhere to put it, the entity to put it in. So we've got to create our VAT entity. So we're going into Nolan Cloud Services now. We're going to VAT Submission. Here we go. We can create VAT entities. We're going to create a new entity. Now the entity I'm going to create, it'll be a new one, and it's a live entity. The difference between a live entity and a trial entity is a trial entity doesn't go out to talk to HMRC, and you cannot submit to HMRC from it. So when you do go live, you need to create new live VAT entities. I'm going to create a new one, but the process is exactly the same except for the HMRC bits, right? Okay, so we're going to click a new one. As you can see, you've got to give it a name. If you're going to have multiple VAT entities because you've got some individual entities and you've got some groups because you've got a rather diverse portfolio, make sure your naming convention is something sensible. Obviously, it's per entity, tax entity, so you might have one for each company name if they're all individual companies, and then you might have one for the group if you've got a group as well as the companies, etc. So make sure that name has a sensible naming convention on it, and you put your VAT registration number in here. If it was a trial account, you can't put the VAT registration number in, it just says trial there, because obviously we're not talking to HMRC. This is going to talk to HMRC, it's warning you here that it will, and it's when you create, it's going to redirect you out to the HMRC website. So click create, and it's redirecting me out to the HMRC website. So word of warning at this point, once you've told HMRC that you want to submit your tax digitally, there is no going back. They are not going to allow you to come in at a later date. So we didn't like that, we want to go back to the old way. So this is the point of no return when you're creating a live VAT entity. So you need to make sure that you're happy to go digital at this point. When you're creating a trial entity, you don't go through this bit, so you can go, it doesn't go anywhere near the HMRC, so it doesn't bring you out to this. But when you want to go live, this is the point of no return. So you need to have already told them that you want to do Making Tax Digital. We'll click continue. We'll log into HMRC with our login details that we've been given. And once we're in there, what we're going to do is we're going to grant authority. So this is granting authority for Nolan's Cloud Services to submit the tax on your behalf. And once we do this, it'll exchange some tokens and link the two. You can come in here and remove authority at any time. So if you want to switch to another solution, you need the authority to submit using that. You can come in here and do that. You're not tied into us forever. Okay, so I'm going to grant authority. So it's now set up my VAT entity. Tokens have been exchanged with HMRC in the background. And as we can see, I have now got some obligations because HMRC knows it's here. It's pushed them out saying, okay, you've got this VAT return to submit. It's open. It's not been fulfilled yet. As you can see, it's not been received. That one's there. We've got VAT registration number. We can see that the token, the authentication with HMRC is in place and it expires on this time, so it needs to be renewed at some point. Okay. And we are using the financial software data, so this is the link rather than the bridging method. Okay, and rest of the real estate down here is liabilities, which we haven't got any yet, and payments, we haven't done anything yet. And obviously this is where we're going to submit. Here's our 9 boxes, and over here is the company that it's coming from. So we click on that, we can see our companies in Microsoft Dynamics GP. And this tick box here is showing that this company is being used in this VAT entity. Now, if we had multiple VAT and a VAT group, and we wanted multiple companies to be in it, all our companies actually show down here, and you just simply tick the ones that you want to be in that VAT entity. Okay, so you could have 3 or 4 companies tick there, and they would all be pushing their combined VAT daybook returns, would combine in here and be then submitted as a VAT group. Okay. So as you can see, because we've got the company box ticked now, we've got that company, it knows that a VAT daybook return has been run. So VAT daybook final audit has been run for this period here, 2017 period 2, with our code already installed in GP, and it's pushed it up, and that information is waiting there in our 9 boxes ready to be submitted. So it's as simple as that. Once you've run your VAT daybook report, you come in here, check it. Yeah, it's up there. That's great. I can submit that. If you want to use the bridging method, this is the point where you can change it. So you can change from the financial software data to Excel spreadsheet. As we see, that will change on the right hand side here. And as the bridging method's version system agnostic, so it doesn't matter if you're on there a very old version of GP or even Sage 200 or something like that. You could use this bridging method. So we have a download template option here. So you click on that and that will give you an Excel spreadsheet to use and fill out. We don't expect you to design your own. We've got one already on the system, so at this point I'm going to browse out to it and pick up my VAT spreadsheet here. As you see, it's just a simple spreadsheet with 9 boxes on it. And what we do is we type in our figures in those 9 boxes. So those figures can come from anywhere, any system. We can have done whatever adjustments we want to do. If you're reporting in some spreadsheet that you like and want to maintain from up until 2020, you could even look at putting VLOOKUPs and things across to that spreadsheet, automatically populating this and putting the information across. Depends how good you are at Excel, you could do all sorts of great stuff with it. But you see, it's basically your 9 boxes. So there we do, we select that, off it goes, populated that, and we literally just import it. So obviously in this one we're pulling rather than being pushed. So the link was pushing, this is pulling. So that says import successfully over there. We've now got our 9 fields filled in over on the right hand side here. That's great. We love it, and we want to submit it to HMRC. So we're going to collect our submit to HMRC. There we go. Bang. And at this point, because we're fully HMRC compliant, etc., we have to give you this warning. Okay, so this is the warning that you're doing a legal declaration, and there's a tick box here that you have to tick to confirm that you've read all this and you understand all of this, and then click OK. So obviously you can't accidentally submit a VAT return. There's too many ticks involved in that. And what we're getting back here from HMRC is our VAT submission receipt. So there we go. So we know they've received it. We've got a submission, etc. Got a receipt number. That's great. And as you notice over here, that's changed. That's now shown as filled and received by HMRC. So what will happen is we log out. Next time we come back in, hopefully HMRC have done all their processing, and they will then push the liabilities back down to us, so what we've got to pay. Then we go and via a normal payment method, pay that, and next time we log in again, they'll have pushed it back down here that it's been paid, etc., and received. So we have all that information stored and kept inside our Making Tax Digital solution. So that's it. If you've got any questions, feel free to contact us. There's chatbots on the website, nolanbusinesssolutions.com or .co.uk, both work. You can email us. All the details are on the website. You can phone us up, all sorts of things, but there's lots of stuff on our YouTube channel about all of this, lots of information on the website under solutions and VAT submissions, and the trial account is free, so no obligations. Feel free to create an account and have a play with a quick upload. It might well be that you just want to use the bridging solution and it'll give you a quick get out of jail free card to 2020. There's obviously no obligation, but when you do want to actually submit to HMRC, that's the point where we do need the £250 payment per annum. So I've been Andy Hall. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and we'll hopefully hear from you sometime in the future. Thank you very much for your time.